Well, my next guest is Shehzad Qazi, the managing director of China's Beige book, a consulting firm aimed at helping institutional investors and CEOs navigate China's economy. He joins me now live from New York. Thank you so much for your time. So let's just talk about the elephant in the room. How much of a win is this now for China, and how much leverage do they have right now after this decision?
Well, look, I think Beijing has made absolutely clear over the course of recent negotiations that they absolutely are the party with more leverage right now. They've even gone as far as in private conversations with foreign business leaders and executives, including the delegation they just met recently in Beijing of U.S. CEOs, made clear that, look, we've got the leverage here, and we don't need to play ball on anything, including magnets. As of yesterday, they get another 90 days of the tariff deadlines being extended. We're now hearing about NVIDIA and AMD being able to sell high-end chips into China. So I think Xi Jinping is feeling pretty confident, and he's scoring one victory after another.
Yeah. And how big of an impact does that NVIDIA deal, which, to remind viewers, is where the company will pay 15% on its China revenues back to the US, how much impact will that have on the wider negotiations on export controls?
Well, I think what's happened is that currently export controls have at best gone to the back burner. So what we're seeing is that export controls, which were the key U.S. leverage point in the negotiations, I think even bigger than tariffs in many ways, and what would have caused more harm certainly to China, have all been rolled back right now. So we're squarely back in the territory of trying to score, I think, some kind of Trump summit. And then, of course, eventually, I think the president would like to see a big phase two agreement. But anything like aggressive U.S. export controls and such vis-a-vis China, temporarily suspended, if not just totally given up on.
Yeah. And this, I mean, let's just remind ourselves, is not the first suspension, it's the second. I mean, how long can Americans keep kicking the can down the road on this? And what, to your mind, are going to be the hardest sticking points that they'll want to hash out?
So this could go one of two ways. One option is that Beijing keeps, delaying or slowing down, rather, its magnets releases and its own export controls on rare earths and such, and that forces the U.S. side to keep working on extending the deadline while trying to negotiate behind the scenes then a bigger deal, which of course requires a more fulsome release of export controls and such. That's one option. The other option is that President Trump realizes that he's not going to be scoring any major wins from China, that they're not going to do any type of these big investment deals or a big purchase agreement, and he finally gets frustrated, and we go back into the territory of where we were around April 9th, where you have high tariffs and very strong export controls. I think this is TBD, but my sense is that the short term is quite positive vis-a-vis, being bullish on China and the markets being excited about where we are. But the relationship is very fragile, and I think this falls apart before too long.
I mean, the feeling is that eventually Trump is going to need and want to win. How forthcoming do you think China will be on any of the issues such as that he covets, like a summit with Xi, or that TikTok deal is still outstanding?
Right now, the Chinese side is not in any hurry for a big Xi-Trump meeting. As a matter of fact, they don't think that conditions are good for that at all. If the two sides are able to work on their series of differences that they have, and it looks like some kind of deal announcement, one that the president will not go back and renounce almost immediately seems likely, then of course President Xi will be interested in meeting. But their biggest fear is that President Xi meets President Trump, they outline a series of agreements, and then a few weeks or a few months later, this whole thing breaks up and causes an immense amount of embarrassment to the Chinese side, which is why, as you've seen, they're in absolutely no rush for a meeting. It's only President Trump who keeps asking for one.
Well, it certainly seems like China are holding all the cards for now. We'll wait to see how this plays out. Shehzad Qazi, appreciate your analysis. Thank you. And we're following reaction.